What's up guys, this is Dave from the Davey HT3 here with another RC helicopter tutorial. Today we're going to be talking about main gears. I'm going to keep this very simple. This is a Mod 1 main gear off of Adam 500. Very basic, low parts count, nothing really to it, nothing out of the ordinary, nothing weird to expect here, it's very basic. For the sake of video we're going to call this a maintenance. Actually I stripped the main gear portion of my main gear. What a surprise. So I replaced it real quick, and what I'm going to do is just a short tutorial on basic maintenance and what you should look for when you tear one of these apart and before you put your heli back together. So enjoy. Okay guys, so here's our main gear. First thing you want to look out for is for the sake of video here, I just got this piece of wire jammed in here. That's where your bolt would go through, sort of like your Jesus bolt for your main gear basically. Every main gear will spin in one direction and lock in another. That's all according to your heli and its specific specifications, which way it's supposed to rotate. In this case we're rotating counterclockwise, and the pinion engages and spins it clockwise, which will turn the blades. How this works is very simple. When the pinions engage the main gear and it's spinning it clockwise, the tail drive or takeoff here locks while that's going clockwise. Now in the event of a motor failure, as we know, the main gear will stop turning, but the force of the wind pushing against the blades with the correct amount of pitch that you apply will allow the tail to spin freely, and the blades will be pushing and turning this essentially like this. So what we're looking for is that you have a nice strong lock, put a lot of pressure on it. It should not go anywhere. You should be able to put lots of force on this. My pin just broke, but we know our main gear is good. Okay, so as you guys saw, it should lock up and spin, and if it breaks the pin, good. That means the bearing inside, the one-way bearing, isn't stripped. So first, before we take this apart, let's take a look inside a broken one-way bearing here. If you look, this is one I sheared over the summer. This thing got tore up. I mean, there's parts falling out of this thing. When I pulled it out, it just basically fell apart. So yeah, that's no good. You see these splines coming out, it's not engaging, it's really ratchety or catching, doesn't feel right. Get rid of it, replace it. Okay guys, here's our main gear ready for disassembly. I'm going to pull off the main pulley first. Then I'm going to push the anti-rotation sleeve through the bottom part, pull that out. Then I have two bearings, one on each side. I'm going to go ahead and remove those. What I like to do to remove these bearings here is I'll flip it over, and then I'll use a straight screwdriver and just kind of wedge it underneath the lip of the bearing. Push one side a little bit, push the other side, and this one popped right out. The one-way bearing that's in there, I leave that in. I already tested it. It's not moving around inside the collet here. It seems like it's firmly in place. This is probably the 8th crash I've had on this anti-rotation hub with the bearing, and no problems yet. So what I will do here at this point is move this out of the way, and I'm going to remove these 3 screws here. I'm going to pull these guys out so that we can soak the bearing and clean it, get all the filth out of there, make sure it's clean, and then we're going to repack it with grease. So go ahead and get your bolts out, and we'll be right back. Okay guys, so the anti-rotation hub with the one-way bearing has been soaking, along with these other little bearings in here. They've been soaking for a good 20 minutes in this 95% alcohol solution. What we want to do is go ahead and pull them out, get your Q-tip in there, and clean as best you can all the splines, all the rollers. You want to roll them in that clockwise direction. try to get all the grime out of there. Look at that. Lots of grime in there. So we're going to clean these out as best we can. Get them all good and cleaned out so that grit doesn't cause a failure. You don't want that stuff to go in there and eat away at your anti-rotation sleeve. So we're going to clean it out as best we can. We're going to clean out the bearings, and I'll be right back and we'll pack them with grease. Okay guys, so here's all the parts laid out for the main gear maintenance. These are all the parts in main gear. Everything's been soaked in alcohol, cleaned out the way I'd like it to be for reassembly. You want to do this kind of quick. If you clean out your bearings with alcohol and let them sit overnight, they'll probably be rusty pretty quick in the morning, especially if you live in a humid climate. So what I got here is actually a little powder container from my girlfriend. It had powder makeup in there or whatever. But what I do is I keep grease in it. What I'm using is white lithium grease. It's really easy to manage it in here and put it in your toolbox and sort of go wherever you have to go with your grease, opposed to having one of these gargantuan tubes of grease with you. So I just keep it in here. You know, I'll scrape a little bit out, put it in my jar, and I'm good to go. I can take it with, I got grease, and I'm good to go. So here's what we're going to do. Packing these guys up. It's pretty crucial how you do it. You gotta make sure it's done right. You don't want them to leak grease and not be done properly. What you'll notice is on one side of these bearings they're using is it's kind of shielded. There's a little shielding in the middle here, you'll notice. So on the other side it doesn't have that shielding. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pack the grease very tightly into this area without the shielding. I'm going to get a good amount of grease on the bearing, and I want to push the grease into the bearing all the way around like so. And it doesn't matter, get that grease everywhere. You want it in the bearing, on the bearing. Pack it in there good. Pack those rollers. Make sure you've got a thick film completely packing the inside of this bearing. This guy will be spinning at 17 or 20,000 RPMs depending on your head speed. You don't want bad bearing. You want to check it. Put some load on it while you're spinning it in between your finger. However, you got to feel it to make sure it's not notchy. That's really super important. If you have a notchy bearing anywhere in your tail, in your head, in one of your grips, you're going to pick up resonance. And if you're using a flybarless system, that type of resonance will give the flybar commands. It'll tell it to do things that it shouldn't be doing. I've experienced it, and I haven't really crashed or anything because of it, but it's not fun flying like that. So I suggest every bearing being good maintenance, packed with grease, not notchy. Replace them after you crash. If you crash, most likely you're going to have to replace about 10 bearings or more in your heli. I mean, I'd rather replace the bearings and have a sweet flying heli than have notchy ones and have resonance and, a thing doing weird things I'm not expecting. So what we're going to do is keep going around. We're going to pack all of our bearings up. For this one-way bearing here, this anti-rotation hub and bearing assembly here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my toothpick, trusty old toothpick, and we get a big old glob of grease on there, and we want to try to pack this guy as much as we can. You got to get it in between all the splines in there. Let's see if I can get some light on this so you can see it better. A little bit more light. What you want to do is pack that guy all the way around. Get in between each of the splines. This is why we cleaned it. We didn't want a bunch of gunk in there when you put your shaft through, and the anti-rotation sleeve. Any type of grime in there will wear it down really quick, and you may not be able to auto-rotate if it eats it down good enough. So this is important maintenance. We're going to pack it with grease, and we'll be right back. Okay everybody, what I did was cleaned up any excess grease that was on the outside of the one-way bearing in there. Anything that was on the seat here where those other two bearings are going to be seated, It's important to clean up the excess grease because what we're going to end up doing here is green Loctiting those bearings that I pulled out of there. So we want a clean surface for that Loctite to mate up to. Reassembly here, what we're going to do is we're going to pick a bearing, make sure it's a good one. We're going to take the side with the shielding faces outward. So shielding, no shielding, the shielding will face outward. And then what you want to do is get this very squarely pressed in. There we go, that one went in pretty easily. Usually they're kind of hard, but this guy, like I said, this is like its 8th crash, so they're pretty resilient. You know, you just gotta use a little green Loctite. So we got no shielding there. There's a little shielding on this side. We'll put that shielding in, making sure to squarely press it down. Usually you do that on a flat table or in like an arbor press. I don't have an arbor press and I didn't need to press it on the table, but that's what we're looking for here. So then we're going to clean this surface off a little bit. Use a paper towel here. And then we're going to green Loctite in between the bearing and the anti-rotation hub. So right in between here is where we'll put our green Loctite so it locks it in. Okay everybody, so I've green Loctited both the bearings. The shielding is facing outward. I know I got a good one-way bearing in there. It's greased very well. It's all clean. Works fluidly. So now we're ready for reassembly. What we want to do is take our Mod 1 main gear here, the actual main gear itself. If you look, I have this recess for the Atom 500, and then it's got 6 holes drilled in here, but we only need 3. So what we're going to do is, I'll use the same holes I used before. Press your anti-rotation hub into there with the one-way bearing, and then that seats flush, and then you've got 3 bolts. We're going to go ahead and use some blue Loctite on these. Take our bolt. So just enough on the tip there, and you want to spray it into the threads a little bit. Camera's trying to strain to see it. And through the top. Okay, so I'm putting in my bolts here. You don't want to tighten them all down at once. You want to put one bolt in it, thread it in a little bit. Not all the way, we're just tightening it down, finger tight here. And then what you'd want to do in any situation, even though here I really can't do it too well, I want to alternate, go across. And if we actually had all 6 bolts here, if this was a larger heli, we'd start here, go here, 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 and here. You don't want to just tighten down one side all the way and then warp the main gear, and then you can't, you know, you'll probably strip it out pretty quick. So you tighten a little bit, go across, tighten a little bit, across there, tighten a little bit. Keep going just like that till she's all together. And snug, you don't have to tighten it down with the force of God, just snug. Your Loctite will set up and it's not going to go anywhere. Alright, so we got that together. Zoom out here a little bit. What we're going to do next is we're going to push through our anti-rotation sleeve, and that pushes up through the bottom of the hub here. You want to do this pretty square as well, as to not, there we go, get her in there, and then put the main pulley on. Make sure she's all pressed together, and there you go. You want to clean up any excess grease when you're done, and that's about it. That's main gear maintenance. I hope you guys found this helpful. We'll go into more depth with main gears later, but I just wanted to put out a quick maintenance video. Hope you all enjoyed, and talk to you later.